Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm going to do something a little bit different today. I've had a friend ask me about my vinyl pouches that I've made. So I thought I would show you how to make one in whatever size you were doing. This one I made, I don't know, about 10 years ago, and I used it as a nappy changing thing with my youngest, but also it's got PUL, so it can carry toothbrushes, toothpaste, whatever. So this one I made a long time ago before I even started making bags, and yes, I did put the zip on the wrong way round. So I've been having a play, and yes, if you're really clever you will notice I forgot to put my back panel in, so you've got the fleece. So I made the back panel into a little pocket, a little one. So as you can see, you can use the same idea for all the bags. This one I've done slightly different in the fact that I've put, if your machine can't take going through lots of layers, this very bottom bit, especially the corners, if you've got the vinyl going right down to the edges to the bottom here, can be quite thick. So on this one I've cut a 4-inch piece of fabric, and then I folded it like you would for bias tape, so it's a 2-inch piece, and then I've just put the vinyl in, so there's no, you can see there's where the vinyl ends, so there's no vinyl in here, so you get a straighter finish than you do on this one, which is where you've got the vinyl to the bottom. Also I did put tabs on but forgot to do them for that one. So there's lots of ways you can make this one different, and also you can do use exactly the same thing and just use a fabric piece instead of the vinyl. So it works pretty much for any pouch you want to make. So I'm going to make a big pouch because I'm going to use it to carry any work or store any cutting out I've done. So for the pouches, and it's great to do with scraps, so it's a great way to use up your scraps. I've got my exterior, I'm going to use the same fabric, exterior and inside. You're going to want, this is G700 iron-on interfacing to give it a bit more oomph. Now you can use fusible fleece. This is some thermaline that I've got cut out, going through my scrap box to look to see what I've got. And then you'll need vinyl. Now vinyl, I use the stuff that they advertise for using in tent windows and things, but I just googled on the internet to find that. Yeah, so I'm going to show you how I measure it up as well. So it's a bit of a sew along, if you like. Make sure you're in the picture. There we go. It's hard trying to find where to put you. Right. Helps if I have my fabric the right way up. Now, just for ease of use, I'm using my 15 by 15 inch ruler, and I'm literally just going to cut, without cutting into my vinyl, my thermaline. So the other ones have all been made with the fusible fleece. I may still yet change my mind. Right, so now as I've cut that on the double folded, I've got the front and the back. Now my next job to do is work out how much of a fabric top I want. So this one has a bigger fabric top. These two both have the same, which was a 2-inch. So if you want like a smaller top, I would say no smaller than a 2-inch piece, because you've got your sizing, you've got your seam allowance that's got to come out of the top and the bottom. So whatever your seam allowance is, mine is 1/4 inch, whatever your seam allowance is will make that bit smaller. And again, I would stick with 1 inch for this bit. That's perfectly good. 2 inches, because you fold it. So I think if I stick with the 2. No, I might do a 3. I think I might do. No, I'm going to stick with the 2. So I'm going to do 3 strips of 2 inch. I wonder if this is big enough. Nope, that would be too easy. So I want to cut 2 inches. So 4. So I want to cut 6 inches. So if I do, it's double fold, so that will do my top zip, that will do my bottom zip. Sorted. Your bottom vinyl bit. So 4 inches down. Again, no, helps if I can follow the line. And now just going to take that. So that should give me my 2 inches for the top bit, my one bit that I can roll to turn into the binding on top of the vinyl, and then this one can become zipper tab pieces. Now, for your zipper tabs, if you are using a number 3 zip, which is your dress zips, which are smaller, they are 1 inch wide. So your tabs will need to be however wide this way you want, but 1 inch will mean that they fit in to the zipper tape. Number 5 zipper tape is 1.25 inches, so you'll need your pieces 1.25 inches wide. Sorry, I get confused between width, height, length, depth. So if we have that, and my seam allowance is 1/4 inch, so 1/4 inch off of each side when you sew it in will be 1/2 inch. And then when you have a fold over of another 1/4 inch to stick it on, so you're looking at about 1 inch taken up before you have your fabric, before you have to sew it for your seam allowance. So I would go with, I'm going to do 2 inches, and we'll see. But it's one of those, you can always make them longer, because it doesn't matter when you cut them off, when you cut the seam. If you cut the seam, you finished, you don't need to worry. So I'm going to do 4 inches. I know this is 2 inches wide, but this is the extra bit we just cut. So do another 2. As I said, maths is not my forte. So now we're going to want 1 1/4, because my zips are number 5. Doesn't look like it's going to be quite big enough. You know what, I'm going to do 2 1/2. No, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do 3. See, you're doing this along with me. You're doing this along with me. This is as I go, you're following me. And as I said, I'm making this up on the fly. Right, so those are my 2 tabs. So what have we cut out? We've cut out our front, our back, our top, and our lining, and our zipper tabs. Yes, I know it's really confusing. It's all in the same fabric, but it will get easier. We need our vinyl now. Best way I found of doing this is if you take your top and your bottom bit, right, now we're going to want it as wide as the fabric. Okay, my mum just called, so I had to stop for a minute. So if we take our top piece and we put it down, and then we put this piece down, this is always, unless you're going to measure it exactly, and I'm never 100% sure, and I would always go a little bit more. I'd rather cut it off in the bottom in a minute than not have quite enough. So I've taken the top piece, put it at the top, and then I've lined me vinyl up with that, and I'm just going to cut the vinyl to size, which is sliding that way. Trouble with vinyl is it's hard to see. Right, that's it. And have we got some on that side? Yeah. Oh. So cut your vinyl. I'm sure there's a very mathematical way of doing this, but unfortunately I'm not that mathematical person. But this way you can make it any size you want doing this. Ooh. Right, so the next thing, let me just cut this, making sure it's as wide as the fabric. Everything very tight. As long as we've got a straight edge up the top. The only downside to working with vinyl that's clear. Should give us sort of straight edge to work from. Right, so now we're going to want our iron and our ironing mat, and we're going to just add our interfacing. Right, so I've got my ironing pad out and I've got my iron. I'm just going to iron the creases out of here. add my G700, which is a lightweight cotton interfacing. I have started using my heat press for this. It's a little bit easier, and not all of you have heat presses, so thought I'd not turned it up the right way then. I thought I was ironing this onto the front. Wouldn't be the first time, and I very much doubt it would be the last. Let's quickly cut that. Another quick iron, make sure it's nicely folded. Just adding the interfacing just makes your fabric a little bit more robust and gives it a little bit more durability. This is 100% quilting cotton I'm using, so it can be a bit thin. As you can see, the difference is it's got less drape to it, so it helps keep its structure a bit more. Add some G700 to this. That's a nice mat, nothing comes through heat wise on that, so it doesn't affect my cutting board. My other lightweight ironing cover thing like that actually lets the heat through. I am hoping next week to have a video out on done the Giddy diaper, but this one will be turning that into an ironing board and craft carrier, so I'm quite excited about that. I've got the ironing board stuff, I just have a bad habit of procrastination. So I can procrastinate for England. Just line that up. Get this bit off here. Right, so that's that one done. Now we want to take our two that we're using for the zipper pull. We're not adding interfacing to the binding or the zipper tabs. So actually know how wide those are, don't we? So now we're going to iron those on. So what do you like to listen to when, or have going when you're sewing? I normally have an audio book or Netflix or Prime going, or some video playing, or with radio. So it's quite weird doing this with nothing, which is why I'm talking to you guys like you're here, because otherwise I'm in silence. So once I get to 1,000 viewers, I can actually start doing some lives and things, which I'm quite looking forward to. So yeah, I'll square that up in a minute. Right. I'll take these two. I do use steam. I know some people don't. I always use steam. Oh, helps if I cut that, doesn't it? This one. Now if you were using fusible fleece, you would fuse that on as well, but as we're not, we're using Thermoline. I have some cut out in my box of scraps. So what we'll do is once we've cut the Thermoline out, we will when we go to the machine, we will stitch round the corners. Just realised what I haven't done. This will be why I follow other people's videos and do those for you, because my brain goes off in 600 different directions all at once. Just make sure they're all nicely lined up. That's those. That's not very well stuck on. Right, that one. Oh, a bit on this side. Just helps to make them as even as take off as much of the overhang as you can, because it helps with the measuring up, the lining up. Right, so those two there. So let's put those to that side and grab a binding strip. Fold our binding strip in half. So this is how you make the straps for bags, how you make bias tape or binding tape, except you cut it on the bias, which is a 45-degree angle. So once you've folded it and iron to the middle, you're then going to iron to there. Then you're going to bring the other side in, do exactly the same thing, just iron. So if you put interfacing in this, it can become quite thick, which if you're using straps and things, which is what you want it a bit thicker, but we don't want all that thickness because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. You've got 4 layers of fabric there, so if you had interfacing as well, that would be 8 layers of fabric for your, I almost said foam to go through, for your machine to go through. Right, now these ones I'm going to turn over by approximately 1/4 inch, and again 1/4 inch. I didn't cut these ones down, did I? And then fold in half. So that's your zipper tab. Again, approximately 1/4 inch, approximately 1/4 inch. Fold in half. Now we've done those, we are just going to get our zip and prep our zip. Okay, before we prep our zip, see I told you going off in 100 different directions all at once. I'm going to place one of our pieces of thermaline. No. One of our, well, it will become our back piece. So the piece with the thermaline on will become our back piece, and the piece without will become our lining. So just cut round that. Making sure I don't cut the other one while I'm at it. So I'm going to put a couple of pins, or clips even. I love my pin curl clips, they're great. I love my Wonder clips, but for jobs like this where you just want to keep it nice and flat and you've not got lots of layers, it's not fighting itself. I like these. A few of those around there, and then one of our pieces, maybe we'll do this one, not that it really matters. This will be our top piece. Again, cut around it. Go. So that will become our top piece. So that will become our front. This will become our lining. So when we go to the machine, we are going to just baste with about 1/8 inch the thermaline to the external piece. Pop those to one side. So now we're going to want our zip. Right, okay, so I've got our zipper tape here. I want to bring it in so that I want to make sure those edges go together. Right, if I grab my scissors. I always use an old pair of scissors that won't cut fabric, because cutting zipper tape will damage your scissors over time. Right. Going to want to take our lining, one of our top pieces, our zipper tabs. What we want to do, let's go and get you a bit closer, see if this works. Right, so what we want to do is we want to put our zipper tabs onto the ends of our fabric. So we do one end. Because I've cut mine too big, I'm going to just place it at the top, and when I've sewn it on I'll do it smaller. So I've tried to put just 1/4 inch into the zipper tab so that That's right, it's because it's fighting because it's open. So I'm going to clip those like that. Now, this is where we were talking earlier. You've got you want to try and keep your zip out of your seam allowance. So if your seam allowance is 1/4 inch, which mine is, my 1/4 inch is where my zip is. So I have 1/2 inch. So hopefully that means that on this side, when I then go to sew down my 1/4 inch, I've got about a 1/4 inch between my zipper tab and my zipper in the side. Sorry, I'm really not very good at explaining. So on this side, we're going to want to take a pen. Right, so we're going to take a pen. So this is the outermost edge. So we are going to we're going to want to put this in closer. So if you pop your zipper tab to the edge, open your zipper tab up, you can see, I don't know if you can see, but you have my edge of my zipper tab is, the middle is on there, is on the edge, and I have this one to here. Now if I take my 1/4 inch turnover and draw a line at my 1/4 inch turnover, I'm going to cut the tape just the other side of this line here. So when I then slide this in here like so, making sure to go up to the top, slide it in, then we have, or should have, if I've done it correct, which I haven't always, our zipper tab should fit in there nicely. So when we take that to the machine, we're going to stitch down those sides. So next stop is the machine. Oh, we can do one more thing before we go there. We can take our vinyl, of which we need to work out, because it's a square and we're not quite doing a square. Right. So I'm going to take our zipper tab, our vinyl, our binding, and on our vinyl we are just going to pop it down onto there, like so. That's it. And then when we take that to the machine, we're going to do one line of stitches along here to baste this to the vinyl, and then we're going to do a line of stitches along here to connect it to the zipper tape. Right, so now we're going to take all our bits over to the machine. Right, so first off, we're just going to baste. Look at that, my needles come on thread. Always the way. Right, so I'm literally sewing this with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, because I'm literally just basting the thermaline to the exterior fabric. one done, and let's not forget this one. Let's just move slightly. Whenever you make pouches or whenever you sew anything, always make sure your machine can handle the maximum length, the maximum amount of width, layers that you're going to be using. So you can always make a test piece of all your pieces before you use them. I mean, I'm really lucky I've got this Juki, and I know it can handle a lot. Right, so now I'm going to go down to my top length stitch, which was 3. I did have it on 6 because I was basting. Now I'm going to top stitch this in place. A Teflon foot really helps with vinyl. So much so that my Teflon foot's never off my machine. I sew normal fabric as well with it. Just double check I've put all that behind. Yeah. Right, so now we're going to do our zipper tabs. And as this end is the end that is open, just making sure we keep it closed. Remembering to start and stop at the beginning and end. That's it. And making sure we remember to keep the pieces together so that it closes. Again, I'm doing about an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Making sure it's all caught in. And as I cut mine bigger, I'm just going to cut them off level with my zipper tape. Right, so now we're going to go on to the next step. Right, so now we're going to want to do our zipper tape. So I'm making sure I keep my zip to the left hand side. Now, we need to put our top fabric right sides down to right sides of the zipper tape. Now, if you're not confident sewing 3 layers at once, then you would now stitch with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, so that when you then added your bottom one on, you'd sew with your 1/4 inch seam allowance, so that you wouldn't see your seam allowance. But as I can do both together, I've now got, so when we flip this will be up that way. So we want to make sure that if we've got a pictured fabric, it's facing up. So this one, which is our lining piece, we need to put on, I'm just trying to, yes, that should be, so that then when we flip it up, this is the right way round. Well, we'll see, won't we? So I'm going to clip that together. I'm going to clip there. Make sure those 3 are all together. Oh, don't want to clip. I hate it when my fingers don't work. Right, so now we give that a little tug. We can put all these together. And now we're going to sew with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance from this side. Back down to construction length stitch, which is about 2.5 on my machine. Coming up to the zip, lift my foot, move my zip back. change my seam allowance in the middle of that, so I will have to rectify that. My seam allowance was bigger up there, so we'll just come back to where it changed. Up, yay, she says. Hold on. No, I think I still managed to get it wrong. I think it's upside down, but hey, not many people look inside. So I'm going to clip those just together, just because it helps when you then pull this here. You can pull knowing that the top and the bottom are still being held. So we're going to top stitch, which is number 3 in my machine. Now I'm going to get some double-sided tape. I'm going to line it right along the edge here. That's it. Now, $1 million question. Can I get the zipper tape off? Probably not. See. You know, when I'm off camera I can sometimes do it, but whenever I seem to go on camera I can never get the tape off. Hold on. Right, so off camera I have finally managed to get the tape off. Yay! Right. Now we're going to take this and we're going to lay it on top. Now I tend to, if you look on the zips, you tend to have like lines, so I try and find one, or you just tend to find you've got lines, so I tend to try and find one and then line it up all the way along. And the good thing is about the tape is you can always readjust it if you've gone too far over. But always try and go from the middle out. Right, so you can see how I've lined that up. And once you're happy with that, take it to the machine and you're going to stitch it on again with your top stitch length. Right. Now that's your, sorry, that's your top done. So now, as we only top stitched along here, I'm going to take these two apart. Now this is our top piece, which has got the interfacing, the thermaline on it, or fleece, or whatever you're using as your interfacing. Now we're going to put the two corners together, and again there, and then we're going to take that to the machine and we're going to stitch straight across. With whatever seam allowance you're using. Back down to construction length stitch, remembering to start and stop back stitch. So we have only stitched the outside piece. We still have the lining piece going. So now we're going to take our lining pieces and we're going to match them up. And what we're going to do is we are going to sew from here. I'm going to leave a gap so we can turn our work, and then we're going to sew to the end. So the lining, we are leaving a turning gap, and we are only sewing our lining pieces. Remembering to start and stop when we get to the beginning and ends. So now we have our fronts connected and our sides our back connected. We're going to want to undo our zip. Now we're going to fold them, making sure we clip the top together. And then we're going to go down and we're going to clip the rest together. Start down one side, making sure to line them up. And I can see my vinyl is slightly longer, but that's fine. I'd rather have to trim some off. If you have made it too short at this stage, you could make, like we did for the top, you could make some binding to go on the bottom so that you can keep it out of the seam, or just make it longer so it reaches down. So we're not sewing across the top. We are literally going from our line that we sewed here down the edge. Down this side as well, again starting at where the stitches are. Turn a tiny bit more. I'm going to stitch across the bottom with the same seam allowance. Now taking our scissors we're going to cut our corners, cut the seam allowance down as close as we can get it without cutting into our fabric. Cut our corners again. It helps if you cut the triangle to reduce the bulk when you turn it. So I'm cutting, that was a bit close, as close as I can without cutting any stitching. And again, when we get to the top, we want to cut our corners. You can see my tab sticking out ever so slightly there, but that's fine. We can just trim it down. The big glue. And some wee bit close, Claire. That one's a little bit close then. Right, now on the top here, I'm going to take our external side piece and we're going to cut that down all the way across. So we reduce the bulk, because this is quite bulky, because you've got 2 layers of fleece, 2 layers of interfacing and 2 layers of cotton. If you've got pinking shears, you could use those. Now this side, we're going to reduce our bulk here to just where we started cutting, where we left the turning gap. And again, we're going to leave the turning gap. We're going to cut that down. Right, now comes the turning part. So hopefully I've done it right this time. If not, I'll have to record another video. So, done so far. Now I've got to turn, because I'm inside out, I've got to turn this round. So, pull that through there. Now, as you can see, the vinyl is a little bit tricky. Takes a bit of squishing and squashing. Pokey thing. This is where leaving a nice turning hole helps. And actually, funny enough, it's easier to turn it when it's bigger than it isn't. But if you don't want to turn the fabric and you want to add a binding finishing, then you just sandwich everything on top of each other to go. So you'd have this upside right way, this up facing, and then you'd just sew round and add the binding instead of turning it like I've just turned it. But hey, who wants to do binding if we can help it? So turn it out. I'm just using a pokey thing, cocktail stick, a chopstick. And a chopstick would put a cocktail stick would put too many holes in it. So I'm going to take that to the iron, and then I will be back. I'm going to give it a press, but I'm going to press it from this side, not this side, because if you press it from this side you'll melt the vinyl, but my ironing board's over there and I don't want to move you guys again, so I'll be back in a minute. Right, so I've just given it a good press. Now the good thing is when this heats up, it does become slightly more malleable, so you can try and roll your corners in a bit. Now I'm going to take out the top bit just for a second. Now you can see when we left this bit longer, we left it longer for a reason, because it makes it easier to turn over for a seam allowance. Because if you cut it really short, then you've got very little to play with. But if you leave it the longer width, length, you can bring your edges together. I mean, if you want to hand stitch this and slip stitch it, be my guest, but I am literally just going to close that. It's how you close pockets inside bags and things. So if you're really worried, you don't want to see stitching, whatever, then you can hand stitch this, but I'm not worried. So that's now closed. Yes, you've got a little line of stitching, but hey, and there you have, hold on, and now there you have your finished bag. And if you want to do it with a fabric front instead of vinyl, then you just cut this piece out of fabric and you don't worry about the binding. You just do it exactly the same as you do the top zipper. So I hope this helps you and enjoy the video. Thank you. Bye.